Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Sarah Lucas. In today's video, I will be demonstrating how to draw some mandala designs, or petals should I say, and this video was requested, so I thought that I would share some designs with you all. For those who have been subscribed to my channel, I hope you find this video interesting, and for those who are just watching for the first time, I hope you enjoy my content. So to get started, I have already drawn my designs on paper. I have a total of 10 here on paper that I have drawn inside of some grid lines just to kind of make everything a little bit more organized. So for the first design, I'm going to first focus on the border, and I'm using my 0.1 pen, but if you have a 0.05 pen, which is very tiny, even better because it allows you to draw the designs a bit better. But I'm working with my 0.1 pen and that's just going to be fine. On the inside of this design, I'm going to first draw a swirl and I'm going to close it in with a border. And underneath that border, I'm going to draw some petals, and do try to keep the number of petals inside consistent. Underneath that, I will then give it a border and close it in, and that's going to be our first design. It's very simple and very easy. The next design, our number 2 design, I'm going to start with the teardrop first, and I'm going to leave a blank space inside of it white just to kind of give it a gem effect, should I say, and I will be giving it a border on the outside. And once that border is drawn, I will then draw some smaller round petals on the outside, making sure to leave the tip of the petal or the design blank so that I can draw a bigger petal on top, and you'll see what I mean when I say that. So I'm just going to go ahead and carry this design over, and we're then going to move on to the next part of this design. Once you're finished with this design, I'm then going to start with the swirls on each side, and it helps to start with the swirl part and then work your way to the design itself. But again, it could be your preference where you may prefer the other way, so feel free to give it a try. Then from there, I'm going to draw some more round petals on top, and they're going to be a bit bigger, and I'm leaving the middle part of this design blank for a bigger petal, just to kind of give it more of a point. And again, I'm going to carry this design over onto the other side, and once that's finished, we are then going to close the whole design in with a border. I tend to think that adding borders to your petal designs gives your mandala or design in general a lot of contrast, especially if you plan on coloring your mandala or designs in with black. It just really stands out to have some white borders in it, so definitely try to work with borders to your advantage. So we are now going to move on to the third design, and this one is a little bit easier. Of course, I'm going to start with the outside first, or the outline, and I'm going to work on the inner border of it. And once we are finished with the border, we're then going to start with the middle petal first, and then we're going to add the petals on each side. And I tend to find that drawing the middle petal first is a lot easier, and it helps you keep everything centered. Afterwards, I'm then going to work on drawing these swirls on each side, and it tends to help by going downward and then working into your swirl. And on the top and the middle, we are then going to draw a very tiny triangle that has a very thin border with a circle underneath. And because this design was pretty simple, I figured I would add some lines inside the swirls just to kind of give it a little bit more dimension. For the fourth design, this one is a little bit tricky because it has 3 designs in one. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to outline the whole shape first, just the shape. We don't have to do the design yet, and this just gives me an idea of what to focus on first. And then I'm just going to break each part of this design down, and I'm going to draw the one part of it first. So right now I already drew in the circles. I'm going to close those in with a border, and on the bottom I'm then going to draw a swirl. And I will repeat the same steps for the other side of the design as well. I'll be drawing the circles, I'll close it in with a thin border, and then I'll also add in the swirl afterwards. For the next portion of this design, I drew a circle, and then I'm going to focus on adding a border on top, and on each side I'm going to draw a swirl, but I'm going to complete it by giving the swirl a border, and I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. On top, I'll draw a circle that will then have petals on top, and again, if you need to, go over this with pencil first before outlining or freehanding it. For the next design, I wanted to work with some shapes, and I definitely want to give you guys something to kind of ponder on if you are needing ideas on how to draw intricate shapes, so I really want to play around with them here. So I'm going to draw a tall round petal, and I'm going to give it a border, but I'm going to stop almost at the end and I'm going to close it off, and underneath it is going to have a thin border, and I'm going to draw some circles underneath it just to complete the bottom part. And it's really interesting to divide your designs up in half. It makes it more intricate looking, and so definitely try to play around with designs. And in the middle, starting from the left side to the right side, or the right side to the left, it doesn't matter, I'm going to draw some swirls that have a border to it, just like we did above, and I'm going to add a circle on top with some petals on top afterwards. I don't show it here, but later on in the background I do add some lines in the back, and as we progress in the video you will see that. Moving on, what design is this one? So we are now on our 6th design, and again I'm going to start off with the basic shape, and I'm going to give it a border, and we are then going to draw a hump in the middle. And if you need to, it helps to have a middle line dividing, just to kind of give you an idea of where your mandala is supposed to be centered. So it helps to have a line in the middle of these designs just to keep everything centered. And so I drew a hump and I gave it a border inside, and then on top, just as we've been doing, I drew some petals on top. And on the outside of this design I'm then going to draw some small humps, and you're going to notice that I do try to I do alternate designs just to kind of see what I can work with, and just to kind of keep all the designs uniform. And so if you want to keep it a little bit more interesting, you can definitely work with whatever feels natural. Moving on to our 7th design, I'm going to have it kind of almost shaped like a house or a triangle, except it's a little bit taller. I'm going to give it a border, of course, I love my borders. And from there, this is a little bit similar to our 4th design, if I'm not mistaken, where we have 3 designs in one. And so I'm going to draw the outline part of it first, and then once we're finished, I'm going to give I'm going to give all 3 of these a border inside. And because the space is very tight to work with, unless of course if you have a 0.05 pen, maybe you can do it with a space, but I have a 1, so it really limits what I can draw. So inside the bottom triangles, I'm just going to draw a circle, and in the middle on top I'm going to draw a small humped border with a circle on top inside the top triangle itself. And in the space that we have left, I'm then going to draw some petals inside. And again, I love this look. I've been doing it so much lately, it's probably time to stop doing it. Moving on to our 8th design, we're almost finished. So the next design is going to be a pointy petal. It's pretty standard, pretty classic. You all have probably seen this a lot, so it's going to be really easy to do. So I drew the outside of it first, then gave it a border inside, and on each side I'm going to draw a swirl with a border, and it's going to have circles on the tips of it. In the middle of this design I drew a tall hump. To draw attention to that design, I'm going to give it a border, of course, and I'm going to add a swirl on top. I'm going to close that swirl in with a border itself, and underneath I will draw some lines. And for the top portion, I'm going to fill that space in with some round petals, and just to kind of take up some of the spare space that we'll have left afterwards, on each side in the gaps, I'm going to fill it in with some circles. Alright, so our 9th design, again, we always want to start out with the basic outline of the design itself. I'm going to give it a border, and from there we're going to break the design down into parts just to kind of make it a little bit easier. I'm going to first draw our circles, and the top circle is going to be a little bit smaller. And from there we're going to close it in with a thin border, and that's going to give us a small triangle section to work with. On the tip of this small triangle section, I'm going to draw a swirl from within. I'm going to close it off with the border, and then underneath it I am then going to draw some petals. And later on we're going to actually add some designs inside of all these petals, and you'll see this afterwards. On the outside, I'm going to add some circles, and it's important to space your circles out evenly and proportionately, because on the top I'm going to be adding another circle, and it's important for that top circle to have its own space. If they're too clumped together, it won't really look all that well, so really plan out the space ahead of time. The last design is a little bit interesting, so I'm first going to start with the tip first. It helps by drawing a teardrop and then working on each side of the design, and that kind of reminds me of a waterfall. Maybe I'll just call this the waterfall petal. And so inside I'm going to start by giving it a border as we normally would do with all the designs, and I'm going to give the border on each side, and then we're going to start from the top and then work our way down. So first things first, we're going to close off the top part with a circle just to kind of give it a teardrop effect. We're going to close it off and give it its own border, and then I'm going to draw some petals, and if it's easier, draw the middle petal first and then draw the 2 petals on the side. Underneath it, we're going to draw 3 petals centered, and underneath that on each side we're then going to draw some swirls and give it a border as well. To fill in the space, I find that drawing circles tend to be the best option that I always go to just to fill everything in, and from there I'm then going to color everything in just to kind of give it some contrast. If you don't have to color it in if you don't want to. This can just be a time for you to just practice outlining in general, but for me, I have little patience for coloring, especially when it's tiny nib pens like this pen for example. I don't have the patience for it, so I told myself this was going to be great practice. So as you can see on the paper, I went ahead and drew all the basic shapes for all these designs, and this is just going to help speed up the process of me drawing everything. That way I can just focus on drawing everything freehand and I don't have to go through and worry about is this shape right or not. So definitely draw the outline of your shapes first just to speed up the process, and from there I'm basically going to just draw all the designs out. Since you have already seen me draw these designs one by one, I'm just going to continue filling out the rest of this paper, working on all of the designs and coloring everything in. It's a very long process, especially because, again, I'm working with a small nibbed pen and I have little patience for it. So this was great practice for me, and I'm really excited to continue working with these practice sheets. I was actually thinking about printing out some or having some of these designs available on my website, which I am really trying to launch very soon. For those who follow me on my Patreon page, I am definitely planning on making some of these practice sheets available. So if you would like to have access to these free templates, which you can download and print out later on, and we can work with them together in a video, you're more than welcome to follow me on Patreon, and once these designs are up, we can work on them together, and it will be a great way for all of us to practice designs, because I myself tend to get too comfortable and I work with the same designs over and over again. So doing these practice sheets really help me branch out and try new things, especially where mandalas are concerned. And it's kind of funny because whenever I show my boyfriend my mandalas, you know, he thinks they're pretty, but he always says, you know, you draw the same thing over and over again. You have to try something new. You have to be a little bit more willing to draw different shapes. So this is a great way for me to get out of that comfort zone, and I really hope it helps you all. Because I am planning on doing live streaming soon, I am hoping that we can probably do maybe 6 designs together with a live stream, and we can just kind of do them in a pace where it is reasonable and in time, I guess, should I say, instead of it being fast forward like this, for example. And so hopefully once everything is set up, I can start live streaming, because I think that would be really awesome for all of us to just kind of practice together. Plus I have been interested in doing live streaming. It's just kind of nerve-wracking, I'm not going to lie, because it requires me to change up my setup a little bit more, and it's just another different area that I've never considered trying. So now is a time to start new things. So a lot of different things are in the works right now, and I really hope this video helps you all with your designs, and it's definitely something new that I would love to keep with my channel. And I never realized how interesting drawing these little patterns and just practicing them would be. It is time consuming. Honestly, I had to get up from my desk numerous times just to stretch my legs, my limbs in general, just to get a fresh, breath of air, just to take my mind off of it and to rest my hands. So it is time consuming. So if you guys practice, you don't have to do as many as I did, but I knew I needed the practice, so I was willing to kind of go through with it. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of video. If you did, let me know in the comment section below. And I have a lot of great things planned for this channel. I know there's some interesting things going on around the world. I'm here for you all. I love you all, and I am definitely hoping to keep bringing you guys some amazing content, because not only do you all deserve it, but also I would love to just try new things. So if you enjoyed this video and this tutorial, give it a thumbs up, rate, comment, subscribe for more. I upload every Friday, and also I'll keep you all posted about the live stream, and I hope you guys have a lovely week, a lovely weekend, and I'll see you in next week's video. Bye!